and I climbed the one on the south and with a buddy of mine, and then on the north one, some rich doctor from New York, like you're where you're from, built this great big house on the island. And it's like the guy's got major bucks because it would have had to cost an arm and a leg to get that thing put out there and constructed on an island. So yeah.
All right. Whenever you're ready, we're ready. And I'm
Okay,
so glad to have the story. I'm glad.
then
So,
we'll set up,
all right.
ready to roll.
I'm ready to go.
Let me tell you something.
Hold on.
You're listening to QSJ, digging up the underground.
Let's get back to the mix.
Hello, it's me. I'm opening the door, gonna let you in. Hey God, it's me. It's been a while walking on the edge. I'm coming back to you where I belong, living my own way, a straight way too long. So I want to say hello, it's me again. You came into my heart and I began to feel you healing me from within. I just wanna thank you, Lord. Say hello, it's me again.
Good morning, everyone. This is Dave, your host of QSJ Radio's Digging Up the Underground. Today we have a special guest, the author of The Gutter Gospel, which documents his intense personal struggles with addiction, mental health, and spiritual encounters. We have dissected some of this book ourselves. If you guys need some information on where you could read the book, you can go to some of the sample chapters at theguttergospel.com. But not only do we have someone who is talking about their struggles with addiction, we have a veteran. We have someone who has been basically, man. Listen. We're gonna go straight to it because Mike Smith is here with us. Hey, Mike Smith, how are you? Welcome to QSJ Radio.
On to your show. So ready when you are to dive into it.
I went ahead and did some magic tricks, and some of the things that describe you online is basically addiction and your redemption and
Correct.
mental health. Like if they had to like describe Mike Smith in 3 words, one of these things that I want to talk about, the motivation to write the Gutter Gospel is a different type of motivation. You had to find yourself in different matters. So I want to go back in a little bit of town. You guys moved away, and Dad had basically lost his job, and then 3 years into this new place of him starting his own clothing store, that passes. And
Right.
you're 15 years old in this new town, basically. And just let me know what that time was for you, what the impact was, and why is that part of your life the first thing you always want to bring up?
Well, I tell you why, Dave, because once he passed away, I'll never forget the morning he passed away. My my bedroom was in the basement of our house, and my brother came running down and yelling, "Hey, Dad's dead, Dad's dead." So I went up there and saw him, and yeah, it was just a tough time, I mean, being that age. And so that was my first suicide attempt, was right after that. I've tried suicide twice in my life, and that was the lowest point of my life. And as you can tell, it still brings up the emotions. I like to do these podcasts because, it's like therapy for me in a way. And to get that out there and to try and, work through it to the best way I can. I've sought counselors out and the church and all kinds of places to talk about it. These days, I'm involved in a small men's group that really helps me deal with it a lot. I lead the group some weeks, but to get back to your question, why that's such a defining moment, it's because, not only did I try to commit suicide, but the way I tried to commit suicide, I know you read this in the book, but I loaded up a car full of my so-called friends when I was drunk, and hit the car to 100 miles an hour and jumped this highway with blind spots coming from both sides. So I didn't care not only if I died, but if I took all people with me. So um, that's a hell of a thing to confess, but that's the truth. So I journaled about that, and that didn't really even start the writing process. What started the writing process was I remember watching this Oprah Winfrey show when she had on this dude who supposedly was telling this true life story, and come to find out, Oprah invited him back the following day because uh, come to find out it was all fabricated, or the majority of it was.
I wanna get to that because I know that's almost fast forwarding in time.
Right.
Because I wanna talk about this thing. Here you are, your dad just passed, worst time in your life. You see him laying there and things like that, and you know, I just want to reiterate to everyone, you know, we apologize for the conversation that we're gonna have. For some people, this might seem a little sensitive. If you're okay with talking about death, suicide, addiction, redemption, things like that, stick around. But this might not be suitable for everyone. And the reason I say that is because we're going to take some excerpts from the book to talk about these things. One thing is, dad is gone. You attempted to leave early, but then you actually left town, but in the most considered like a patriotic way. Um, but what my thing is, you're going through all this stuff. I don't know if it was the town that you didn't like or something like that, but something made you leave and join the military. What was that kind of influence? Because this military happened right after high school, right?
Yeah, I took 1 year off, Dave, to try my hand at college. That's the truth. So I flunked out of college pretty quick, and then I had student loans to pay and nowhere to go back home to because we were losing the house and the clothing store to the bank. So that left it to the point where really the military was the only option. My dad was in the Air Force, so I chose to go Air Force for no other reason than that. So, basic was down at Lackland. My schooling was across town in San Antonio. Uh, and you're a veteran, so you can appreciate what I'm about to say. that when you fill out those dream sheets, it's a joke to think that,
Yeah.
the old saying is you're dreaming if you think anybody
Yeah.
looks at that.
And let me
Right?
for our non-military people, let me just tell them, right? So you're sitting in boot camp and they sit you in they basically are giving you like options on where you want your first duty station to be. And,
Yeah,
most people want to like go overseas. I'm assuming that's probably where you wanted to go.
exactly.
And
Yes.
I wanted to go back to New York because I had a girl there. I wanted, things to work out. But in reality, like you don't get anything. It's like you don't get you don't get anything. Like no one gets their dream first duty station. And then some people end up going back home, which is crazy because that's probably one of the reasons why they left. So you end up staying around Texas, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Dave. Yeah, my I was gonna say that my schooling was across town in San Antonio at Brooks, and then stationed North Texas, right in Tornado Alley, up at Shepherd, which is in Wichita Falls, Texas, so, just south of Oklahoma. So, a lot of tornadoes would come through there. I remember one time, a buddy of mine and I are sitting out on the picnic table drinking a beer, and we see these funnel clouds starting to form off in the distance. I said,
No,
"Man, that does it for me. I'm
no,
seeking shelter,"
no.
right? And he was from that town, Dave. This is the funniest part. He says to me, "Oh, Mike, don't just chill out, man. We don't go in the seek cover until we can hear a big roar down here because we're so used to 'em." I'm like, "Man, you're nuts. I'm going inside." But yeah, that was the
Yeah,
deal in
I can't.
Tornado Alley. It's like living in
I
Fargo,
was gonna
Dave.
ask, like, because
Yeah,
I've heard you so many times mention specifically the area's nickname, and I was, I'm scared of storms. Period. Okay,
right.
like
Yeah.
Mother Nature has more strength than I ever will. So I'm just like, man, he has to have had gone through some tornado warnings because he keeps
Yeah.
mentioning those things.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's kind of ironic because when I got to Shepherd, one of the first things they do to kind of get you accommodated to the base, they show you this video of this massive tornado that went through Wichita Falls in the late 70s, about a mile wide. It just left this great big swath right through town. So they show you that video clip. And it's like, okay, we don't mess around with tornadoes here. But then I bump into that idiot that was like, not I don't go inside until I hear a loud roar because he grew up there. But yeah, it was a different time, that's for sure.
Big shout out to everybody listening in. If you're just tuning in, we're talking with Mike Smith and he's beginning stories of the Gooder Gospel. Not only are they in the book, these are basically an autobiography, and we're into the military life. And the military life does something that is almost hilarious. Let's say now you are full-time Air Force, you're getting used to this town, all this other stuff, but you're still a kid, unsheltered from the home or whatever it is, whatever the case was, and you kind of make this decision to with you and some of your I don't know what I call my guys shipmates. I don't know what you guys call each other in Air Force, but
Uh, I won't use that language on air.
okay, okay, okay. Copy that. That's fine. That's fine. Um,
We gotta keep it clean, Dave.
yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying. And you guys, well, at you ended up uh basically getting kicked out. What was the reason you got kicked
Yeah.
out and things like that?
Yeah, what happened was, I decorated my room. I write about this like the swamp from the TV show MASH back in the day because everybody would go there and have drinks, afterwards. Even my colonel showed up and had a beer one night with us. And, yeah, the whole thing had a mural of like the gators coming out of the swamp and all this other stuff. There was mesh netting coming from the ceiling and, all this and that. And, so I just used it as like a party room, and I was meeting these guys that were all into smoking weed. So, I got back into my old routine from high school doing that. And long story short, what happened was this dickhead came on base one night with a pound of marijuana to sell to an undercover cop and got busted. And to save his own rear end, he named names of people he knew that were also using. So
Ah.
that was during yeah, that was during the 1980s when Ronald Reagan and his wife Nancy had her big war on drugs. So they said, "Hey, we're gonna boot all you guys." And yeah, I didn't really care at that point, I guess, that much because it was like, the military was fine, but it wasn't for me and it's not for everybody. And, but what I found out later, Dave, was that because I did go that path and get kicked out, my life really became hard for a while, going back to Fargo Moorhead areas where I landed, Moorhead specifically. And I wound up bumping into a guy, like I mentioned before we came on air. I tried college for a year. And when I was in college, I met this guy named Don Matthews, and he was a good buddy of mine from that one year in college, and he's an ex-Marine. So, and a fifth degree black belt in Taekwondo. So Donnie and I, post-military, decided to rent a house together and grow marijuana together. So
I was
he
gonna,
got me trained up.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he got me trained up in not martial arts, but he got me trained physically, the best shape I'd ever been in. We just worked out all the time. And I write about on the sample
Yeah.
chapters, which I know you read.
Yeah. You ended up, your roommate, Don,
Yeah.
and he suggested that, of course, because you guys are like cool by now, right? Like, and chilling
Yeah.
and things like that. But there's this Christian powerlifting. Is this what I'm talking about? Is it, did I
Yeah,
read that right? Like, in
exactly.
Jesus'
Yeah.
name, we raised their weights. Like, I'm,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. Go ahead, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, but he was at work, and that was my first manic break and my introduction to what it means to be mentally ill. I'd seen my dad, who had passed away 8 years earlier, and, he told me to go blow my effing head off with with the shotgun I got from
Wow.
him when he passed away, and it was so intense that I was just about to pull the trigger, and it was like this wind just shoved me out the front door, and I was only in my underwear, and I wound up running like 3 blocks away before I came to, and was just hearing all this demonic crap going on in my head. And it was like, by the time I came to, there was these cars that were driving by, and I was kind of looking at them, and they were looking at me like, what is wrong with this dude? He's really flipped or something. So, yeah, I came back to the house because I didn't have anywhere else to go. And, it was just continuing. And then this buddy of mine that liked to get high stopped by, Heath. And I write about this in the chapter. But anyway, he goes, "Hey, Mike, you look like you saw a ghost. What's going on, man?" And I said, "I don't know, but I just know that I can't get high right now. And I feel like I need to go to church," is what my comment to him was. And he goes, "Let me get something straight with you, man. I didn't come to get preached to. I just came to
Wow.
see if you wanted to get high or not. And if you don't want to get high, then I'll just stop coming." And so that was the last I saw of Heath, because after that, my life took a totally different turn. Wound up meeting my wife, who I'm still married to 36 years later, which
Wow.
is a
Shout
miracle
out
in
to
and of
that.
itself.
That's a
Yeah.
miracle.
Yeah, that is a miracle, putting up with my sorry.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to mail you.
I, I want to talk about the wife here later on because there were
Okay.
some decisions that she made that almost put you in a position where you feel like she was doing the same thing your family was doing. But
Right.
but it was more than that. It was real love instead of people, not wanting to deal. So in this, and the reason I want to bring that up is something happened. All this stuff is happening, and I guess one of your siblings, your profound siblings, I want to assume that you have made amends or haven't made amends. I don't know yet. With your doctor sister.
Right. Yeah. No, that's very strained, Dave, to be honest with you. It's very strained. So, yeah.
Okay,
But
and so your sister takes a lot of impact in things that are going on because you are hopping houses, you're trying to figure out things. It is early 80s into the 90s. Things are going on. Life is changing really quick. But you end up homeless. You end up
right.
homeless. Is this before the church or after the church?
That's after the church. That happened in 2019 to be exact. Yeah.
Oh, so there
After,
we're like zooming past time. That
yeah.
wow, wow. Before we get into that, I just whatever happened to the you and Don situation. Did you guys ever?
Yeah, Donnie is cool. He was one of the attendants at my wedding. Not a groomsman, but he was like an usher or something. But
Okay,
no, Donnie's a good guy. He's got a good heart. He wound up becoming a Christian right after I did. He asked me what it was like, and the power lifter you were talking about was named Wayne. He introduced me to Wayne. Wayne introduced me to the church. So that's kind of connecting the
I'm trying to
dots for
figure
you.
out. Look, I can't go to the gym anymore because if somebody tries to bless me, let me, t- let me, t- let me tell you, I'm just trying to listen to some podcasts, man. But anyways,
Yeah, that's funny.
but you know what's crazy is that I'm gonna get into this because some of this stuff is in the book, but it's when you hear it from from the experience, it's kind of different. I wanna get into this now, the church thing, right?
Right.
The name Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins. Yeah.
Tony Robbins, that's a super impact. I believe that he contributed a lot to what is going on here. So Tony Robbins, what's this experience with Tony?
Yeah, here's what happened, Dave. Now we're into the mid 90s. I'm sorry, late 90s.
Okay.
99 to be exact.
All right. No.
So,
Y2J,
so yeah,
Y2K.
yeah, Y2K was all going on, and this is the second sample chapter that happens to be on my website. So, what happened was by this time I had kind of got promoted through the ranks at the city transit system and became the project manager in charge of it all. I went from being a dispatcher and a driver to doing everything. So the guy that was in that position wound up moving up in the city because the lady that had that job wound up dying of brain cancer. She was diagnosed and passed away within less than a month. So it just went super
Wow.
quick with her. And anyway, so Wayne steps up into that gig, and then I stepped up into his gig running the whole show. And I was looking at an infomercial one night and Tony Robbins came on about, how you can improve your life. And I was looking for answers to become a better manager and a better person and, get off the alcohol and get off that for as I just wanted to put it all behind me. So bought the package, and here's what happened. Long story short, there was a 30-day money back guarantee, and I'm bipolar. So to me, that meant, oh, well, hey, man, I'll just cram it all in like 10 days,
What?
right? Or whatever, a week or two, and then I'll mail it back, get
What?
my money back. Right? Oh, it gets better. So anyway, that's what I
So
was doing.
just let me remind people of Tony Robbins, because Tony Robbins, if you guys didn't know, is a personal and business results coach. He's super viral, kind of a big dude, strong voice kind of guy. One of the first guys that were actually just giving out this information. Um, but he's been around for a very long time. I think close to almost 50 years. And this is you trying to self-help yourself at the time with the managerial position that you were in, and you just didn't want to you didn't want to fail at that job. And you wanted to be better at managing that, and of course life too. So I just want to reiterate that to some people who just think that Tony Robbins is some guy at church. No, Tony Robbins is like super famous. Like,
Yeah, yeah, he's the top dog when it comes to that stuff, like you said, Dave. And so I'm cramming all this in, right? And I was going back home. I live in West Fargo, and my office was in downtown Fargo. So heading back on Main Avenue one day after having listened to these tapes over and over again, missing out on sleep and trying to get it all crammed in again to mail it back. But so I got all this going on in my head, right? And what's happening is, since I'm low on sleep, you know what happens to people when they become sleep deprived, especially if you have mental illness to begin with on top of it. And it was a toxic blend, man, because it was like I just had overload going on in my mind. So as I'm driving, Dave, it was sunny out. This is right before Thanksgiving in 1999, like 3 days before.
okay.
And what happened was, uh, I was hearing these voices, like from God or from Tony or from a mix of all sides or whatever. I still can't really totally get it down, but I did my best to write about it. But anyway, the voice said, "What do you really want out of life, Mike?" And I started saying, "Well, be nice to have more money. It'd be nice." No, that's not it. It'd be nice if I had this, that. And it was like, no, no, no. Then finally, the voice came and said, "What do you really want out of life, Mike?" And I guess so I pulled over to the side of the road, and it was like God was talking to me directly. And I said to myself, well, I guess I want acceptance when it's all boiled down. I guess that's all I want is acceptance.
And
Then the
and
voice,
wow,
then the voice said, "I do accept you and I love you and I died for you. Now go out and tell the world." Right?
the God.
So it's like I got out of my car, and I started to stop traffic and pound on the hoods of cars saying, "The end of the world is here and God loves you. Now go share it with the world." So I'm doing this, and pretty soon a cop pulls over, stops by the side of the road, asks me to come over and talk to him. So they get traffic flowing again. And now I'm talking to the cop, and the cop's asking me, "Who do you know in town? You okay?" And he could tell I wasn't on anything. I wasn't using drugs. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't any of that stuff. I was just starting my cycling into total mania. And what happened was, I said, "Yeah, I know your boss." And he goes, "What do you mean you know my boss?" And I said, "Keith Turnus, that's your boss. He's the chief of police in town, and he still is married to my little sister." And so he goes, "How do you know Keith?" And so I told him what I just shared with you.
Yeah,
And he said, "Okay, who else do you know in town?" And so I gave my wife's name, and she runs I'm not going to name it on air, but she
yeah,
runs
yeah,
a very popular social service program. She's a social worker in town. So he goes, "You know her too?" So he took me in his car over to the hospital in town to get me diagnosed, or to get me in a safe place,
yeah.
basically. Right. So the doctor comes in and starts to examine me, And he goes, "Well, what's going on, Mike?" And I was trying to explain it to him, and then all of a sudden, everything just got very demonic on me. They put me up on a psych ward, and was telling me, "You got to stay the night because you're short on sleep." Because my wife had told him about that I hadn't been sleeping, and as things progressed, I was starting to hear all these terrible demonic voices, very demonic crap going on in my head. And it went from hearing from God to hearing from Satan, basically. It was like one or the other. It was the extremes of each side, right? And just like back in '88 when I
And this
almost
and,
blew my head out.
and this is you weren't on anything at this time.
No,
Wow.
nothing. And I wasn't in '88 either. So it was manic breaks. And I've had a few manic breaks over the course of my lifetime. But anyway, uh, so once I get in there and they're starting to examine me and trying to get me to sleep, my wife was standing over me saying, "Mike, you just need sleep." And I was hearing these voices, and I thought in my head, Dave, it's to me, it was like it was something in the hospital that was demonic. So I wanted out of the hospital.
Yeah.
So they released me back home after I threatened to sue them all against doctor's orders. And when I went home that night, I was pacing and I couldn't lay down, couldn't sleep. And I just wound up the next morning screaming out. My wife said she could see my eyes roll back in my head. And, it's painful because it's like my 4-year-old child at the time, he was only 4, witnessed this. The ambulance comes, puts a straitjacket on me, puts me in the back of the ambulance. And then when I get to the hospital, they put me in a padded cell. And this is again in the sample chapter, but uh, I toured hell for 3 days, basically, or what it would be like to be in hell. And that's not why I came up with the gutter gospel, but it kind of ties into it because it's like I've been through so much crap in my life that uh, I've been in the gutter most of my life, and now that I've written about it and got it all behind me, I can kind of look back on it and
Yeah.
talk about the
Yeah.
redemption. So, but yeah, it's nothing that I would wish on my worst enemy to experience those things I have in my life.
I mean, sure, because there is a dickhead in your life. You
You had to throw that in
I
there.
had to because I can. I understand that part, but I don't understand. If you guys are just listening, we're talking to Mike Smith. I think around this time is where you've been diagnosed finally
Yeah,
with
exactly. With bipolar.
bipolar.
Yeah. It took all those years in between without being on meds, nothing. And I was always like, okay, but
But
yeah, and
then
even
there's a really you know things started happening a lot now. Court started happening. The family, those parts of the family started giving up on you, basically.
yeah.
There's a whole bunch of things going on here, and it's crazy because you would believe that people who have gone through, educating themselves, being a doctor, all this other stuff, worst thing you want to do to anybody in this kind of situation is give up on them. And here is your loving sister doing the opposite of that.
Well, you know what I find out later, Dave, was that it wasn't so much her influence as it was my mental health doctor at the VA. And I thought for the longest time it was my sister, but my wife corrected me on that and said, well,
Okay.
Dr. Hader was actually the guy that had you committed. So now we're moving way ahead in time. This was in 2019 after the
Okay.
homeless
Let's
shelters.
slow down. Let's slow down. What I want to do is I want to take a break real quick because I know we're getting into some deep stuff. And we'll be back here in a second I will send you these songs later so you can hear them because you'll understand how they kind of rap with what's going on here. This is here Howard Grip with "God Gave Me an Angel." I wish you can hear this.
I can get it on YouTube. I have YouTube pulled. What's it called?
Driving down I-65.
God Gave Me a Hero.
An
towards
Angel
Nashville,
from Howard
Tennessee.
Grip with two P's.
Spend hours on the road. My love next to me.
Let me pull it up.
Sleeping on the way. I look at you and think you're everything I dream and all I'll ever need. I prayed for a blessing. Look at what he gave me. God gave me an angel. God gave me an angel. As the sun begins to set, painting hues of pink and blue, we shared so many laughs and whispered dreams anew.
All right, you gotta stop searching.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry, I'll send all that stuff to you.
Okay.
For everybody just tuning in, we're talking with Mike Smith, talking about his time of finally, and I say finally because it's a long time dealing with something that you didn't know what you were dealing with, and you finally get diagnosed, get some treatment. But see, there's something that I thought you were going to introduce yourself this way, but I wanna figure this other thing out. And I have a feeling that it's coming later. The VA helping you, or guiding you into all these things. The VA, for those who don't know, is the Veterans Affairs Hospital. And every state basically has their own, and they kind of run a little different, but we won't get into the politics of that. The VA is helping you out. Are you at this time trying to get a disability percentage? And for those who don't know, it's basically military related issues that can probably help a veteran once they're no longer in. Is that what's going on there, or is the VA is something that you just basically all you knew at the time?
Well, to answer your question, I didn't. It's a little difficult to answer because without jumping ahead, because that ties into the homeless shelters and
Okay.
everything else.
Okay.
In
We'll
19,
wait.
but,
We'll wait.
okay,
Because
yeah.
what I wanna.
But I was just getting my medications basically from the VA for years. And it was a balancing act because anybody that is familiar with people that are bipolar, it's not just a magic wand of balancing the medications. There's a lot of what I call practicing medicine, and they're practicing on your brain. So it's not an exact science.
Ain't no Tony
So-
Robbins gonna fix that. I'll tell you that.
No, exactly right. Yeah. And I dropped Tony's stuff too.
Oh, wow.
It's like because of what I'd gone through, it was like, nah, man, I didn't ship it back, but at the same time, it was like, to me that was kind of evil because it led me and I don't disparage anybody that wants to listen to Tony Robbins. I think he's got a lot of good stuff, but the point being, with what I went through, you can see why I was just kind of turned off by the whole experience after all the smoke cleared from that episode in the padded cell. But I'll share one last thing about that time, which is 2 or 3 days after I came out of being in that very manic state, the nurse came in my room and said to me, "I'm Nurse Amy," and she said that when I was first coming out of it in the padded cell, but then she came into my room 2 or 3 days later and said, "Mike, when I saw you in there in that cell, you look like a cornered animal because your eyes were as big as saucers." And
Wow.
so it was quite the experience, Dave. I'll share that with you guys. If you know of anybody going through bipolar, love on them as much as you can.
I mean, I'm trying. You know, I'm trying. Mike, I don't understand that sometimes they don't, not all, but they don't accept it.
Yeah, I know.
It's a little,
That's the thing. When I look back on my life, Dave, now I'll share this from going back in time now to the military days. I can see God's hand at work, and I was not accepting it at the time, like you just said. Um, uh, this story you'll appreciate. I don't know if you have read this or not, but in there's this episode when I was getting kicked out of the military of this little old lady coming up to me as I'm waxing ambulances and handing me a Bible tract, and I said I can't accept it, right? And she
oh
goes, "Well,
my
why
God,
is that?"
the little thing, right? The travel one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, those little
Yeah.
things, She hands me one, and I said, "I can't accept this because I'm not a Christian. I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I'm also being kicked out next week from the service." So she goes, "Oh, Mike, let me pray with you, and God loves sinners," and she's telling me all this stuff. And at the time, it's just going in one ear and out the
The
other, like
other,
you just
yeah.
said, Dave. And so I was just like, okay, whatever, but see, the reason I'm sharing that story with you is there's so many more as I'm now 60 years old where I can look back on my life and see all these people that we're trying to help. And I was just not accepting it. So that's bad on me, to ignore the help or not know what I was even really dealing with. They always say with bipolar, it usually shows it comes in at different ages, but there's definitely the early 20s is usually when it starts to manifest, and that's when it did for me too in my life. So but I can share this with your audience. There was this plaque, not a plaque, but a radio show back in the day called the Minrith Meyer Clinic with two Christian psychiatrists, and one of them said, I've got 7 kids, and all of them are either doctors or lawyers or professors, but I got my second youngest son, which is where I rank in the family, is bipolar. And he goes, this was the doctor's comment, which carried me through a lot of dark times in my life. He said, I bet you anything that little guy's going to outshine the rest of them by far
Wow.
sometime in the future.
Yeah.
And now, as I look back on my life, Dave, I'm able to share my message and my story with the entire world from the comfort of my own bedroom. And had God told me that as I was going through all those times, I would have just laughed at him and said, that's just not possible. But it's happening.
But we're both doing it.
Yeah, we're both doing it now, Dave.
Mike, that's amazing stuff. If and for those who are just tuning in, we're talking to the author of the God Gospel. You can find the information on where to get this. This is a newly published book. When you were going around doing basically the quote unquote book tour, congratulations on that. There was no release date yet. You were working things out, and now
Right.
we finally get this book out. And I think there's a saying that you like to say, took 30 years to write, 60 years to live it, right? Something like that.
Yes, sir. You got it right on the head.
Listen,
Dave.
I'm gonna tell you, there's sometimes where I'm crying with you, even though I've probably like 2% of something that we've gone together with is one, the military and just being a dad. And the other
Yeah.
thing is just like you've you've taken it, and understood and accepted. Um, this I want to fast forward because it's mostly about this transition from I'm trying to figure out is that you got somebody who's standing by you. You got doctors who are trying to help you out, and then something happens that you end up homeless.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know if the support system crumbled. Was there something that
Yeah, well, I can fill you in on
yeah,
that, Dave. There's a regional facility down here in St. Cloud, Minnesota for veterans. It's a veterans hospital is what it is. So it's a regional one. And it gets people in there, all the veterans from all over the Midwest and people from out in Washington State. I mean, I've met a lot of dudes in there, and because I was in treatment 3 different times in St. Cloud. And the last time I was down there was in 2019, right after my dog died. I was really depressed and, went down there because I was just, really hurting. So went down there to get help. And long story short, I was not sleeping because that's the one thing with bipolar, just like what happened with Tony Robbins, I wasn't sleeping. So, um, after being there 5 weeks and being low on sleep, I started to cycle again. And so they put me on a psych unit to evaluate me, another psych unit. I've been on many, but this one, they kept me for an extended period of time. And they said, well, you know what? You're so far off your medication balance that for some reason, the solution was that they were going to um, put me in a homeless shelter with a civil commitment for 6 months. Okay. This is in Annandale, Minnesota, right outside of St. Cloud.
like
And my
what?
wife yeah, and my wife was saying, you can't come home because we need you to have your meds balanced, or otherwise you're going to be all over the board again, and it's just going to be a revolving door. So everybody in my life by this point has given up on me, and I'm stuck in this homeless shelter in Annandale, and I couldn't sleep there either. So I hitched a ride from one of the guys back into St. Cloud to try and catch a bus to get back up to Fargo. But if you read into the book, it's easier to kind of see how it unfolded, but because there's a lot of details in there. But anyway, that's the basis of it. So by the time I finally did get back to Fargo, and broke away from that homeless shelter, I came here, and my wife greeted me with 3 or 4 police cars saying, what are you gonna do? Because he didn't have any money. He didn't have anything. So I talked her into letting me stay one night in the house. And that night I was cycling really bad and called 911 too many times. So they arrested me and put me in the county jail where I was for about 7 or 8 days, cycling really severely now. And, I was in my cell by myself, naked, covered head to toe in my own feces. That's when my doctor saw me. And it was like, what the only option for him now is to stick him in the state institution for as long as possible. So, it's easier to talk about it these days without, getting emotional, but I
I'm
know
getting
it
I'm
was
getting
very painful.
I'm getting emotional here because there is my father-in-law was I can tell that he was giving up. Like people just gave up on him. And you're telling me these stories and I'm remembering a few years before they kind of just pushed him away, and I don't know if he was in a home or something like that. And we're like far away. We're like not living in the
Yeah,
same state. So we don't we don't got the information. And I'm hearing that they found him like that. They found him in his own feces and things like that, and then he just basically just shriveled away. And
Yeah.
and and then you got it really sucks because fortunately we're not dealing with a post Mike Smith conversation. But when I started seeing these people that were always talking crap about him, that were always, just kind of like they just no one ever had a really nice thing to say. I mean, we're talking about to the point where people were keeping their kids away from him. And
And
and and it was never like that. It was never like that. And it sucks because, you're just seeing this strong-willed woman that I have in my life not be able to like fight for him, or the guilt comes into play where you just, what if I could have done something more? And but you have your own life to deal. So it's kind of like I'm hearing this stuff and I'm happy for you because you end up, you know, breaking through out of this, because I can only imagine. Fuck the sleep, right? People say don't sleep. You get rewarded for that. But I'm imagining the non eating, the not giving a fuck about yourself, the whole thing, you know, like with the family kind of like throwing you away, and then now the wife is actually doing it, and it's like, okay, so now I'm by myself. Now I'm by myself. So why do this? Why continue doing this, right? And I know this is not about me, but I don't think I've really had a time to like flip out about how people just left him alone,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and unfortunately, we're talking about post Anthony. So anyways, sorry. It was just some things get to me, and I'm sure that a lot of things get to you. You want to use the word. I don't want to use the word during the mental health kind of conversation, but the word is trigger. And there's anyways.
Well, yeah, let me jump in here, Dave, because this is kind of how it goes from being very dark to actually getting to the road of redemption. And if that's okay,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that right now. I'm in the state institution, and I was crying out to God, saying, why me, God? Why do I have to go through all this shit, right? And I look up and there's this plaque on the wall, and it says, "You've been given this life because you're strong enough to live it." And I remember that just hitting me like right between my eyes. So I went from having to, what they would do, Dave, is they would take me from the state institution, which is in Jamestown, North Dakota. And to give you a reference point, that's like 100 miles straight west of here
Oh
from
no.
Fargo,
That's a long
in the
ride.
back of a paddy wagon in
Oh no.
chains.
Oh no. Uncomfortable.
And every week they would take me out of there and they would bring me to stand trial in front of a judge to beg for my freedom so I could be released from the state institution. And I was out there 6 weeks, which means I was rejected 5 times in front of different judges in chains. And you can, yeah, but
And rejected
so
by society as well. I don't know. I don't know, Mike. There's nowhere.
yeah,
I don't know how
yeah.
you get there. How do you get there?
But anyway, so they put me in another homeless shelter. This one is in Fargo. Uh, and there was veterans upstairs and there was criminals downstairs. And we would eat together all of our meals, right? And so I'm sitting in there one day, and this is what turned the corner in my life. Besides the plaque, I'm laying on my bed, just staring at the ceiling tiles, doing nothing. This lady comes in, she goes, "Mike, you got some mail," right? So I go get my mail, open it up, and there's 2 big checks in there for back pay. I got 100% service connection from
Bro.
the military. Yep. And I literally went from being in a homeless shelter to getting 100% service connection from the military, got my meds balanced finally, and that's the road to redemption that I'm on now. And it's like the story just totally flipped. And now that I got my book published, I should share this with you about the book.
Wha-
I got a pub I got it published out with Brooklyn Publishers in New York, and they said, "Mike, you're nuts, man." I said, "Hey, if somebody calls me nuts, that's one of the best compliments I can get." The
Yeah.
the way I look. So anyway, they said I'm nuts for not charging anything for it, and I wanted to share that with your audience. The
Wow.
book,
Yes, please go get the book. It is
it's for
free.
free on the bottom of my homepage on my website, theguttergospel.com, and you can read all about it, all the trials and everything. And like I shared with you earlier, Dave, and your audience about um, that message that Christian psychiatrist said about his little boy that is going to outshine the rest of all the doctors and lawyers and all that other stuff in his family. I'm doing it now. I'm talking to people all over the world with my message, getting it out there. I talked to a dude in South Africa that swims with sharks. I talked to a lady in Brazil, a lady in Spain, the UK, everywhere. It's just going viral. And it's like, it's such a blessing, man, being able to look back on it all now, cry about it sometimes,
Yeah.
laugh about it sometimes, but it's the truth. Unlike that dude that was on Oprah with his false book,
Oh,
mine's the gutter truth,
yeah.
and I've got the medical records to prove it if anybody wants a copy.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
hilarious.
for you.
Oh my. If you guys are just tuning in, we'll almost get into the end here, but theguttergospel.com. Please go over there, get your free book, see the chapters. There's some chapters in there that you can, look over before if you want to proceed with it. I understand this is a sensitive topic for a lot of people, but it's something that has to be spoken about. Not people forget that you're always going to have that one person. Some people are always going to throw their acronyms everywhere and talk about it, but when somebody is out there really involved with not only the church but the community to try to help out, that's something else than somebody that's sitting in a room and I'm going through this and people should feel bad about it, but no, it's not that, because it's bigger than that. I know, Mike, that we kind of went over the first time that you were trying to take the life, and the second time was kind of like, the voice came back, right? The
Right.
voice came back, and the voice was saying something else to you. What was that?
Yeah, I was going to hang myself in the basement of our house. This was in 2004, and after I got fired. Well, let me back up one step, if I could.
Yeah.
After that cycling in '99 in the padded cell, I couldn't function at my job anymore because my mind was just all over the board. I was overeating. I was just going through hell on earth. But anyway, so I got fired from the managerial job, and the only job I could find was driving a taxi at night, driving all the drunks around. And of course, they'd tease me and make fun of me and stuff. And I was just getting so discouraged that it was like, enough of this shit. I'm just going to basically say, this is it. This is how it's going to end. So I went down there in the basement, started stringing myself up. And there was a still quiet voice that said, "Mike, your life still has a purpose. And I remember that was very clear to me, so it stopped me. And little did I know at the time, I'd still, from that point on, and we've covered it now, what happened between 2004 and 2025, those 21 years. So, yeah. Oh, sorry about that. My puppy's
No,
starting
it's
to,
okay.
my
I got a
wife
lot
must
of
be,
them. We love puppies.
okay.
We love puppies.
Okay, cool. I got 3 of them.
You got
So
3, I got 5. You gotta I don't know
so
why.
I need
No,
2
no,
more,
no,
huh?
you do not. You do not. I
Yeah,
kinda overdo everything. Don't do that.
yeah, I do too. I don't know if you can see my custom shirts, but it says
Yes, you got shirts too. I wanted to cover the merch.
yeah, 22 veterans per day up here, it says. That's the amount of vets that take their own life. And my brother, God bless him, always says, Mike, you got to get the numbers right. It's
At
17.6
17 now,
now,
yes.
not
Something's working.
22. And
Something's working. Yep.
they said, well, there's definitely awareness going on, but that number is still far too high. 17.6, 22. Pick a
Yep.
number. That's way too many people
Exactly.
that are military guys taking their own life. So, that's, but that's on there, the Nike logo for the Legends design. Then, the Hiroshima flag, and it says, former homeless veteran shares his true life story at theguttergospel.com. So that's my merchandise. And thinking about maybe putting that up on the website for sale, or
Yeah,
don't
you've
know
been
yet.
saying that for a few months. How about we just do it?
Yeah.
How about we just do it?
Well, you know what I'm into now is the podcasting thing. We're lagging behind. We're just getting our social media profiles up
Yeah.
because I've just been going through tearing apart these podcasts and getting my, message out, because that's really what fuels me, is to talk about
Talk.
it.
Yeah.
And just like with you, cry about it sometimes, laugh about it, and have a good time. And that's really where my joy comes from these days, besides my dogs. And I'm involved in the jail chaplain ministry these days here in Fargo. Like doing that. A bunch of great guys with that organization. I do the small group thing on Thursday nights with the guys where we read out of the Life Recovery Bible. So a lot going on these days in my life, Dave. So I'll have to get that merchandise up there. Actually, you'll appreciate this. I get them from Virginia.
Yeah.
That's your
Yeah.
home base. It's Custom Ink. So
Oh,
they,
custom ink. Oh, that's nice.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
based out of Virginia, as you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, right down the road from you, right?
Yeah. I should just tell him. One of your clients were on my show today.
There you go. They
They'll be
know
like,
me well. I've ordered a lot of shirts from those guys. I got a whole closet full of them, and hoodies, and you name it. I got a whole gamut. So that 100% disability is a blessing, man, because I don't know, I haven't got to this point in our conversation yet, but I'm saving up my money to go to Orlando October 1st. They
wow.
have a thing called the ICVM Storytellers Conference, which is a faith-based organization with producers, directors, and investors from all over the globe
Ooh,
to
I know
look at
what you're
turning my true
doing.
life story.
Let's
I turn
go.
a true life story into a movie. So that's my pitch. They got a thing called Popcorn Night where they give you 5 minutes uninterrupted right in front of all the bigwigs to say, this is what I've gone through. Do you think it's movie material? So there you go.
Wow.
October 1st through the 4th. So we're saving up for that right by Disney World.
Wow. Never been to Disney.
I
You
got a
going
lot
to
of
Disney?
relatives in Florida. Yeah, I've never been to Disney World. I've been to Jacksonville and St. Augustine, but never to and St. Augustine, man, that was really fun. They've got a great seafood restaurant there called Harry's right on the beach with that Cuban vibe, and it was just
Yeah.
like great times. So, yeah.
Mike, what's free time looking like for you? I know you probably try to work out, read a book or something. But what's your free time looking like?
trying to get all this organized. I apologize because I'm very disorganized.
There's no
Like,
such thing, Mike. I've been doing this for a long time when it was like the thing to get away from the military life. Some people go to the clubs, they go,
yeah,
do their thing. And I did all that and I ended up multiplying, so I had to calm down on that. So,
yeah, yep,
there's no such thing because as soon as you get your stuff kind of organized, things start changing. If I was you, just go with it. You're doing very well. You're talking very, straight to the thing, getting to the question, not venturing off. So,
right.
I think you'll be a really good podcast host. Don't put me on your show because I'm.
Yeah, that's probably going to be my next step to venture into. I've looked into it actually, to be honest with you, Dave, about doing my own. And I just joined Spotify last week. So um, who knows where I'm going next, right?
Yeah.
Only the good Lord. So we'll have to see what he's got in store for me.
I got
But
I
yeah,
got I got one question because I know somebody meant so much to you. Can you tell me a little bit about Brad Witzke?
oh, yeah, I appreciate you bringing him up. I usually think about that on my own, but Brad was an interesting character, you know. I was at a jail chaplain event and they were taking the guys out to a movie. This is the first time I met Brad. I was standing in a line trying to just waiting to get some popcorn, and he comes up and introduces himself to me and says, "Hey, my name is Brad." And he opens up his shirt and he got this big wound on his belly from having cancer, where he was operated on. And so, long story short, I got to know him very well. He was a very dear friend, and I took him to all of his radiation appointments when the cancer came back, and saw him basically die right in front of my eyes. The last time I saw him, I went into his room, and then I went right back out of his room, and I said to the nurse, "Is that really Brad Witzke's room?" She goes, "Yeah, that's Brad." And you wouldn't even have recognized him because of what the cancer did to him. So
Wow.
Brad passed away this past December 14th. My wife put the slideshow together for his memorial, and yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. I like I said, I usually remember to mention Brad, but great guy. He'd give you the shirt off his back, and he was a carpenter and just tremendous man, you know, and can't say enough about him. I check in with his neighbor all the time. Her name's Christy, and she those two were like two peas in a pod, and she was devastated losing them too. So I make it a point to call and check in with Chrissy and tell her about all the podcasts I'm doing. And she goes that Brad would be so proud of you these days, you know, because I didn't start the podcast thing, Dave, until after the first of the year. So obviously, Brad never got to see it take off. But I said, you know, Brad, I'm thinking of some idea, and this was like going back
Yeah.
with him when we went out to eat one time. So it was in fruition at that time, but I couldn't quite put all the pieces together as to where I was going. And after he passed and the first of the year rolled around, I started researching the podcast thing, and then voila, you know, here I am. So, but yeah, he's sorely missed.
If you guys are just tuning in, we're coming to the end here with Mike Smith. You guys could really just listen to this podcast. It'll be available as soon as we get it up. I think I promised Mike by the end of the week. But
Yeah, you did, Dave.
but I- but I but I wanna take time to thank you, and not only just to coming on here sharing your story, you know, sharing the gutter gospel, but everything comes in full circle. 15, dad is gone. There is the guidance is gone. Everyone is giving up around you. They're giving up on the store. They're giving up on the house. no one's finding solutions. You go, you find your way into the military, you meet a couple of good guys, and a couple of good guys, they don't care really about the rules, right? And so that brotherhood kind of puts you in a position where now where's my life gone? You try to find some peace and try to find some help when you're outside, and people don't understand. That boot camp changes people, and that boot camp changes people to only deal with people who can relate either to the boot camp or to the duty stations. And then I found in the story while we were talking that it was the veterans that you found along the way. Their stories were different. Their stories were common. And that kept you kind of close to what was a family. And it brings me to my kind of experience where when I got out, I thought I was going to be good. I was like, I'm going to get out. I got out with a retirement check. I got out and I have a big family. I got everything going on for me. But in reality, everything got taken away. My title, my last name that was used either to call me to do something reliable or do something that I got in trouble for. But my last name got taken away. And the only people that actually really call me by my last name are the veterans. And even though they don't know my last name, I feel like they're calling it. And so it brings me to this thing where I want people to understand. And I'm sure that this is also the message that Mike is bringing. If you got an emergency, if you got a crisis, they made it easier for us. Call 988. Okay?
Yeah.
If you need a text and you don't want to talk to anybody, 838-255 for confidential 24-hour support. Okay? All right? And mental health, if you don't even know if you got a mental health issue, go figure it out. Go find out. Get some therapy. They got virtual therapy now. You don't even have to have a camera on. You know, I'll advise you to understand. You might want to have a camera. You might want to see somebody's face that actually will care about you. And anybody else, please think about the people that actually do not know. They do not know if they have an issue. You need to treat them as don't give up on your family. I get it. It gets annoying. They've had so many issues. They can only bring you issues. Yeah, but you have your own issues. And everybody else is going to turn their back on you except for that person that you don't give up on. I want to take another thank you, Mike, for releasing something out of me that's been like a very fucking pissed off dude because I witnessed the betrayal that family can have when it's all said and done and everybody's living with that guilt, that grief guilt, I think they call it. I don't know what it's called, but it's too late and they're gone and they don't know that you love them. And I want to give a shout out to Wifey because for somebody, remember, for somebody to stick around, okay? For somebody to stick around and show you that sometimes you got to push away in order to welcome in with a hug. It takes a lot. And I want to thank her for pushing you out to letting you back in because she saw more of you than you saw more of you. And because of her, we get to have this great conversation. And
Amen. Yeah. I'll share this with you, Dave. You'll appreciate this. When I got married, the church, half the church was packed on her side with family, extended family, and extended beyond that, and all these relatives, right? And on my side of the church was like a bunch of gypsies. They were just like, it was mostly empty. I had to rent a groom from her side, and two grooms from her side of the family to fill out my wedding party. So, yeah,
Wow.
that's that says it all right there. You know, she comes from a really good family, and yeah, it's been a blessing. I'm gonna have to send you a photo. You won't even recognize me in the picture when it's our engagement picture. I'll get you a copy of that. So
Yeah,
I'll
that'll be.
have her scan it, and I'll email it over to you.
Oh, that'll be nice. That'll be nice.
Yeah, you'll love it. And I promised you about the T-shirts. So um, from the Mississippi, I got to get you one of those this summer too.
Yeah,
You'll get a
don't
kick
tell
out of it.
nobody my shirt size. Okay, we're not gonna
No,
do
we're not going to go down that road. That's between you and me, my friend.
Mike, congratulations on the gutter gospel and congratulations on all the things you've accomplished and all the self-help that you bring, not only to yourself, but to all these people around the world. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dave.
And we'll talk soon.
Okay, buddy. You stay blessed, all right?
Thank you. You too.